What a great time to be a Giant, be a fan of the Giants.
Like, we have something going here. We're building something special, and you can see it from the outside and inside. It's even more beautiful.
Reflecting on everything that got me here, just to see that uniform, and I watched. That's the team I watched the most growing up because my dad was a Giants fan. So
once a Giant, always a Giant. For me, it's only a Giant.
Welcome, everybody, to a special game day edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. I am your host, Art Stapleton, coming to you from Maryland, the site of Giants Commanders Part 2. Boy, how much has changed since the Giants beat Washington at MetLife Stadium 14-7 with a spectacular goal line stand, with Sam Howell and the Commanders trying to get in the end zone to tie the game, maybe even win the game back in October 22nd to be exact. And Jason Pinnock makes the final play on the goal line stand. The Giants win, coming off of that game against Buffalo, heading into the game against the Jets. And there was still a flicker of hope that this season could turn around. It's amazing what's happened since then. The Giants lost that heartbreaker in a debacle of a finish against the Jets. Then they go out to Las Vegas and lose to the Raiders. And then last week, 49-17 at the hands of the rival Cowboys. A total this season of a combined score, 89-17 against the Cowboys. Well, there's a reason why the Giants are down here with the idea that, well, the season's over, maybe they should be tanking for a top 2 pick to try to get one of the quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Daniel Jones out for the season, Tyrod Taylor not back until at the earliest after the bye week. And you got to be honest, you think about what this game meant to the Giants last year here at FedEx Field. The idea that playing that game for essentially the upper hand in a run to the playoffs, winning in prime time the way they did, Kayvon Thibodeau, with just an unbelievable performance last year against Taylor Heineke and the Washington Commanders. And now a year later, what's gone on, and really not even just a year later, but several weeks later, almost a month, the Giants went from beating Washington at their home field to opening the week as double-digit underdogs to the Commanders. And it's really hard to believe that this season took this turn and really has not recovered. So what are we expecting today? Well, Tommy DeVito gets his second straight start. Undrafted rookie, North Jersey, chicken cutlets, mom makes his own bed. All the things that everyone wants to talk about regarding Tommy DeVito. It's amazing. DeVito's gotten more attention virally this year than Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor combined. And that in part speaks to where the Giants are at, but also speaks to where we are in the media and just the idea of, sometimes we'd rather mock a guy and create memes than actually talk about the accomplishment that he's had. And if you're following me, you know that, I was there from the very beginning when Tommy DeVito signed with the Giants back in May as an undrafted free agent. Broke the story. And, since then, he's done things that not even he could have imagined, to be in a position not just to start one game for the New York Giants, but to have that game be in the national window in Dallas. And if you look at where he's at right now, it's hard to believe. But Tommy DeVito has as many touchdown passes in 2 games that Daniel Jones has this entire season. And yes, that has to do with injury and missing time, but it also speaks to the lack of productivity for this offense. So when you're talking about injuries and lack of production and overall, disconnect between last year and this year for Daniel Jones, There's a reason why people are talking about the idea of not being able to pass up a quarterback if they are in a position to take one. Whether it's Caleb Williams or Drake May, we're not sure. I know the Giants reportedly had 4 different scouts at the North Carolina game today. The Giants have really scouted the heck out of North Carolina over the last couple of years with Joe Shane running the show. We know that they drafted last year Joshua Azudu and Marcus McKeithen, both from North Carolina, so they've seen a lot of the Tar Heels. And how that plays out over the next 7 games, we'll just have to see, because the Giants right now don't look like a team that's going to win another game. And you know it, I know it. We're watching what we see on the field, but we also know the NFL. And would it really shock you if the Giants came out and played Washington tough and somehow stole one here, despite being, at last check, 8.5-point underdogs to Washington? It's, to me, it comes down to what they do defensively, because the defense has to keep this team in games. I mean, that's the reality of where we're at here when we assess the Giants and what they have. They're not going to be putting up major points. They're just not. And then when you put DeVito into the mix, he's a young guy who's still learning. I mean, the Giants are learning him. You've got receivers that haven't really played with DeVito all summer. DeVito's playing with them. That's the reality here. And this defense has been the problem the last 2 weeks. I mean, you can't give up over 600 yards of offense and 49 points to Dallas and think you're going to be competitive. And again, this defense does get a pass in one sense, is that for 3 games, Buffalo, Washington, and the Jets, in which that's a stretch the Giants should have won 3 games. They only won 1. And yes, the defense gave up at the end a huge drive by Zach Wilson and the Jets. Overall, they deserve to win that game. And, I wrote this week. It's like the balloon popped for the Giants defense. And, I know a lot of people want to point to losing Leonard Williams, trading him to Seattle, and how that put a dent in this locker room, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We know Xavier McKinney made the point of saying, you want to compete for now and not for the future, and then you go and you trade Leonard Williams. There's part of that's valid. We always say that when the front office is analyzing what moves to make for the best interest of the franchise moving forward, you always have to weigh what it does to the locker room. And that trade of Leonard Williams, sure, it took a hit, both on the field and emotionally. But that's not the reason why this defense has completely collapsed. They haven't had the same inspired play that they had gotten for several weeks in a row here once they started finding their groove. And do I think that they have an opportunity against Sam Howell and the Commanders? Yeah, because I don't think the Commanders, if they get punched early, that they compete the same way schematically. I thought the Commanders should have run the football against the Giants a heck of a lot more than they did in the first meeting. Instead they put Sam Howell out there, and there's a reason why he leads the league in passing yardage. They're just chucking it all over the place. Will the Giants be outmanned in the secondary a little bit? Yeah, and still no Adoree Jackson. Tay Banks is coming off of an ankle injury last week, so we'll see how much he can play and how effective he is. Maybe he's hit a little bit of a rookie wall, but it's going to mean a lot to him to being a stone's throw away from College Park, where he made his name with the Terrapins, now coming down here to play at FedEx Field against the Commanders. He's going to be juiced up, and he had his back and forth the last meeting with Terry McLaurin. So I think that's certainly one to watch. But when you consider watching this game and how it breaks down, if you're the Giants, you need this defense to get off early. You need them to be able to make a statement and play from the front. Don't take punches early, because right now, with the way things are and the way the offense is constituted, you need to get out there, get Saquon Barkley going early, and see if you can kind of make simple throws for Tommy DeVito to get in the end zone. You need to make plays on defense early. This offensive line is still the same for Washington. Tyler Larson should start at center instead of Nick Gates. We know what Dexter Lawrence did to them last time up front. Kayvon Thibodeau cleared concussion protocol on Friday. He's ready to go. We know what he did in this building last year. They need to make some plays early, give themselves some confidence. And Brian Dable needs to be able to be in a close game in order to be able to remind people that he knows what the heck he's doing. Because right now, you lose another game by the kind of margin you lost to Dallas, and this time have it against another divisional opponent, people are going to start questioning this team, and there'll still be 6 games left on the ledger. And that's a huge thing to accomplish. That's a huge hill to overcome. So that's what we're looking at for today. I think if the Giants win, their path to victory is defense early, Saquon Barkley, and then maybe a couple plays late that Tommy DeVito can make that puts them in position to beat the Commanders and snap this losing streak, and maybe put to rest a little bit of the late season tanking questions, which has been asked and answered over and over again. So that's our game day episode. Try to enjoy the game if you're going to watch it, and we will be back tonight with our post-game analysis and wrap, and then get you ready for Thanksgiving and then next weekend against the New England Patriots, which, if you're for Giants tank, that New England Patriots game is going to be a huge one, especially if they don't beat Washington. Everybody, appreciate you all in, and we're all in too. We'll catch you after the game.